The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Jack Baruzzini. Hey, Jack.
Hey, Dom.
And Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom.
And Merry Christmas to you both, because it is
Merry Christmas.
It's still Christmas here. But before we get started, I want to tell folks about another show on the network that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Although I'm going to bet that a lot of you already listened to it, and it's called Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. And every week, Jimmy and I, we delve into some mystery, either natural or supernatural, from the perspectives of faith and reason, being neither credulous nor overly skeptical, just really digging in and using our critical thinking to look at all kinds of amazing mysteries, whether they have to do with the paranormal, with faith and religion, with historical mysteries. There's all kinds of things, and you will definitely love it. Lots of people do. It's one of the top-rated podcasts on Apple iTunes right now. So if you want to, or Apple Podcasts right now, I'm still stuck in iTunes. You can tell how old I am. So check it out wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/mysterious. So, speaking of mysteries, I want to talk about this mystery, which is our first topic, which is the New York Times had an article. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Elf on the Shelf. This is a thing that I kind of missed because I was too old for it when it came out in the mid-2000s for it to be something that I was familiar with from my childhood. And I hadn't yet had kids, so I didn't have kids for this to be a thing for them. But Elf on the Shelf, for those of you who may not know, is this little elf figure that's inspired by a book where the elf sits in your home somewhere, and the parents tell the kids that the elf is watching them on behalf of Santa. He's a scout for Santa to see if they've been naughty or nice, and the elf sometimes will move around the house while they're sleeping or do all kinds of shenanigans and that sort of thing. But he's reporting back to Santa. And, it's, I don't know, if you like that sort of thing, that's fine. But some people are warning that it's teaching kids the wrong thing about privacy and being spied on by invasive Big Brother types. And some folks might, and others might would have responded, well, look, I mean, this is all good fun. Santa knows when you're naughty or nice, and so that's just part of it. So I'm gonna throw it over to you guys. What do you think about this? Is it training kids to be okay with being monitored by a police state named Santa? What do you think, Thomas?
I've always worried about the man in red and him always watching your every move.
Right. Yeah. That's and in fact, my wife and I have talked about this. Is we're very careful when we talk about St. Nicholas that while he intercedes for us and he gives presents, we don't really talk a lot about he's watching whether you're naughty or nice and will only give presents to nice kids and that sort of thing, because I think from a Catholic moral standpoint, that's kind of problematic too. It teaches a problematic lesson as well. Jack, how about you? What do you think?
To only be doing good. Yeah, to only be doing good for a reward. That's absolutely
right. Exactly. That's the problem. Yeah. Jack, what do you think?
Well, we all know that Calvin has said that Santa is a CIA spook, so that ties into this. I understand what they're saying in the article, but I do think that it's a little bit sensational. I think this would be analogous to me telling my 5-year-old son that, or me being worried that because my 5-year-old son plays Mario, he thinks that it's okay to go outside and stomp on squirrels.
Right.
I feel like I think it's a similar kind of issue.
Right. That's a little bit of the video game panic stuff that we, if your kid plays violent video games, he's going to be violent along those lines. So it does have a little feel like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think it's not really something that's that's something we really need to worry about. But I'll be honest, I don't like the elf on the shelf. I think it's just in and of itself, it's creepy. Right?
Yeah,
I agree.
This little toy that moves around the house that's always like watching. Like it's the idea is just really weird. So I have an alternative that we found a couple of years ago that's fantastic. It's called North Pole Ninjas Mission Christmas. Okay, now this is awesome because the book comes with an envelope full of tasks that the children are supposed to complete without being seen. So they have to do it stealthily. So they have to do some good without the other person knowing that they are doing that good thing. And it is absolutely fantastic. My kids love it, all of them, all the way up from the 16-year-old all the way down to the youngest one that can understand what they're actually doing when they're being tasked with something. And then there's like a little sensei plush doll that comes with it. So he's like the sensei elf. He's got big old long mustaches and stuff. And it's fantastic because what you do is you read them the thing about the North Pole Ninjas and how they're there to do good and not let people know that they're doing good, right? And then they have a list of tasks, and you just take the task and read it to the kid, and it says like, go and help your sibling clean up their room without them knowing, or pick up after someone when they don't realize that they've left a mess, or go give a compliment to someone, or go hug someone. So it's really it's a very specific task. It's something that they can do without a big fanfare, and then they get it done. And then they bring the task back to you and let you know that they've completed it. And then you give them another task, and you just kind of cycle through it over the course of time. And it is it's a really cute way to think about doing good without all the fanfare of, oh, well, I did this good thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Without expecting, sucking up to Santa so that he gives you presents instead of coal. Although, to be honest, given the cost of energy right now, coal might be something I'd want to get in my stocking.
We've had that debate a few times in my house.
Yeah, like I get that the various people in this, the very earnest people in this article, are trying to make a point about, and it's a good point. We need to make sure we teach our kids that that it's not okay for others to surveil upon you, that you should have privacy in your home, and privacy especially in your bedroom, and it's not okay for others to be holding you to a standard by like big brothering you, that sort of thing. I get that, but it does feel a little overly earnest.
And I also feel like it has that attitude towards kids that basically that they cannot distinguish between what is a play game and what is reality. Like,
yeah,
I think even like a 4 or 5 year old is going to be able to understand that this doll, he's not actually watching you. It's part of a game. But then of course, like this kind of like overlooks the whole issue we have with like Alexa devices or the Google Home, or even just like computers with webcams always off. Like there are actual problems that should be addressed and the kids need to be taught about. But I feel like this just distracts and also kind of muddles the issue, because if they think, oh, this play thing that is not actually doing anything bad is watching me, then like what else is watching me, and also how serious is it actually?
Right. Right, because the elf is not actually watching you and reporting back. And so, I think you make a good point there, Jack, because we should be teaching the kids about the actual things that could be reporting on you, like Echoes and HomePods or Google Homes or webcams, or like, but by muddling it in with the play, the game, you're in some ways you're kind of teaching the kids the opposite of what they're trying to do, which is that it's all part of the big game. And that, I think, is a problem. That's a good point. So I think and from the other standpoint about, I think what you mentioned, Thomas, about the ninjas from the North Pole, I really like that. It reminds me of certain devotional, not games, but sort of devotional projects that families can do, like in Lent and Advent, which are like the good deed jar and other things like that. Right. And it inculcates virtue without a sort of selfless virtue, which I agree with. And I think that's actually, to talk about, because, talk about what St. Nicholas actually, the legends say he actually did by helping others and by giving away and giving things, and what Christmas is really about, which is about, generosity of, first of all, the generosity of God to give his son to us to save us from our sin. And then we emulate that generosity in being loving and with others. And if you're doing that, I think you're okay.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget punching heretics in the face. That's a really important part of St. Nicholas.
Yeah, sure. I have to put an addition on it. So this elf from the Elf on the Shelf does not have its origins in this 2006 book. The elf character itself, we had when I was a kid, 40 some odd years ago, on our Christmas tree. And I tell you, that thing really did creep me up back then. Long before,
elf, yeah,
it's just creepy looking. I don't know what it is. It's got that whole ventriloquist dummy aesthetic thing going on somehow, or I don't know. That gave me the creeps.
I feel like it would be like this is like a Doctor Who plot. This evil toy elf that's watching me that's actually evil.
Oh my gosh, think that is going to be a Doctor Who Christmas special one year. That's for sure. Thanks for giving him that idea. Anyway, all right, so let's move on from that. The Elf on the Shelf, no thanks, but for the other, not that reason that they give. Before we move on, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Kenneth P., Colin H., Elk Antennas, Chad B., and Kathleen G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And to remind you, SQPN is a 501c3 nonprofit, so your gifts to us may be tax deductible, considering whatever your tax situation is. And so as the end of the year comes up and you're trying to make some charitable donations for tax purposes, and to also just help support our charitable mission, keep us in mind. We'd appreciate it. So our next segment, our next headline we want to talk about has to do with Alexa and behaving badly. This is a case where, now the headline is Alexa tells 10-year-old girl to touch a live plug with a penny. Okay, so let's break it down. This 10-year-old girl asked Alexa to give her a challenge. And so the mom said they were doing physical challenges, like laying down and rolling over, holding a shoe on your foot and whatever. And so the girl went to Alexa and said, give me a challenge. And so as Alexa sometimes does, when it gets a request that it's not that isn't a built-in function, it looks on the web. And so I found this on the web. And what it found was apparently the first thing that came up on whatever the web search was the penny challenge, which was a stupid Darwin Award challenge from a few years ago, where you partially insert a plug like a phone charger, so that the metal prongs are exposed, and then drop a penny on it, which is zinc and copper and thus conductive, and it would spark, and you could burn your house down, frankly, and kill yourself. People have, in fact, lost fingers doing that sort of thing. And so it's extremely dangerous. Now, the girl didn't do it. The mom jumped in. No, Alexa, no, stop. I find myself saying that a lot these days. And to Alexa, because sometimes it does some weird things. So, and this has become a thing. And then Amazon, of course, has announced that they have made sure that Alexa will not tell people to do the penny challenge and that sort of thing anymore, which duh. But is the question is this an Alexa problem or is this something else?
That's a big question. Is it an Alexa problem? Yes. Is it a problem that this patch is going to solve? This particular instance of it, yes, but not the larger problem of what exactly are you getting when you ask Alexa for something that it can't directly answer, that's not in its database. And that's where I think more of the issue comes in. And so a lot of people have been blaming, machine learning or AI for this problem. And the problem is actually that Alexa's too dumb to figure out what was going on here.
It's not smart enough yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's the thing, is if Alexa was a smarter device, it would have intuited from what they had just recently been doing that what this girl was asking for was a physical challenge, because that was the information that it had been fed if it was paying attention, to these things that were going on, and then would have returned something in that same vein.
Right.
And I just have to compliment Netflix here, because we were just talking about this in my house the other night. We were on Netflix and we were searching for The Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because my kids were wanting to watch it. We knew it had been on there, so we were searching for it, and the returns came back with other Dr. Seuss movies that were not The Grinch, but that were still Dr. Seuss, and those were the top returns. Were like, they had The Cat in the Hat, I think, and one other. But that to me is incredible. That's an amazing intuitive system that understands, okay, yeah, you're looking for The Grinch, and I know The Grinch falls into these categories. How can I respond with something that's similar enough, that maybe fits the bill, but isn't exactly what you're looking for, since I don't have it.
Right.
And that's what was missing here, is that level of algorithmic intuition.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a larger focus on the context of both what is being asked and also what is being returned, because we want it to get to the point where the AI is going to know not to tell you to do something stupid, like drive out in the traffic. It's, it's like the classic thing of like, the whole, I followed my GPS into the lake, into the ocean. Like, that kind of thing. And part of it is sometimes people are just going to be dumb and we cannot fix that, but we can fix like a device returning like a clearly dangerous thing to an impressionable child.
Right. Well, and one thing I was thinking is, this isn't specific to Alexa. This is a search problem. This is a search, because if you went to Google, you might have got the same answer. The top answer might have been the penny challenge, because the algorithm is going off of, well, lots of people have been searching for this apparently, or this has been big. And this is part of a larger problem, I think, with a lot of these algorithms out there, is they punish curiosity and sometimes even imprecision, because like, for example, if I'm scrolling through something, I don't know, on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, I have to stop. Or YouTube is another one. Like, if I watch a YouTube video, like I saw someone talking about this, like, oh, I need to learn how to change the battery in my car remote. Okay. Oh, I have a 2013 Honda Civic, and that's my thing. Okay, we'll watch that video. Great, excellent. So, YouTube, what else can I watch today? I'm really interested in watching some videos on YouTube now that I'm here. How about these other 18 videos about changing the battery? No, I've already changed the battery. I'm good on that, And it sort of punishes. Well, that wasn't about curiosity, but sometimes if like you're scrolling through things and you click on something out of curiosity, it decides this is something you're intensely interested in, and I feel like that all of these algorithms just aren't good. They're not. I mean, they're better than not, I suppose, but they're just not all that good yet.
I've had that problem a lot with the Google Explore page on my phone, where it gives you articles based on what you've been reading, your likes, and like I accidentally hit a link about like a football team one time, and I have absolutely no interest in sports. It's just not one of my things. So like now I'm constantly exactly
you do now.
Of my life. Yep. Yeah. And every time I get one, I hit like the little suggestion thing. I say, do not show me articles about sports. What is the very next article? Something about sports. It's like I don't. At some point, I don't even understand like where is any of this intelligence going, because these things seem to be so inaccurate.
Right. Well, even go ahead.
A lot of it is they're getting to a point where they've forgotten the personalization part of things, and they've started to use the hive mind to teach these algorithms. And as much as I don't want the highly personalized, you've been creeping in my closet version of Google, I also don't want well, everybody's doing this, so obviously that's what you're interested in, right? Because 99 times out of 100, I'm not the demographic for certain things.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what was I was scrolling through something on Instagram, and it threw up something like having to do with a cooking thing. I don't know. It was like a weird recipe for, I don't know, something I would never eat. Like, oh, that looks bizarre, and I would click on it, to see the show me more information about this, the caption. And then from then on, I was getting all this weird, like, I don't know. I don't I'm not vegan. I don't want to eat that stuff. Don't show me that stuff. It is a real problem. Like the other one is the Amazon ads where I need a particular kind of anchor bolt to secure something to the wall. Okay, found it, bought it, boom. Would you like any of these 15 other anchor bolts that I'm going to show you all over the web for the next 15 days? No, I've got the anchor bolt. Thank you. Done. It's only wanted one. Or something like a toaster oven that you buy every 15 years. It's like, I don't need another toaster oven. Got one. And it just, it's sort of like the tyranny of customization. And this is why things like customized advertising that follows you around in the real world, that sort of AR advertising is terrifying to me. That Minority Report advertising thing model, it terrifies me because I feel like I'd be inundated by this stuff everywhere. And that's just would be awful, it'd be hell. So, yeah. So in this case, I kind of it's hard to single out Alexa for this. This is not specifically an Alexa problem. In this case, it was Alexa problem. They need to do a better job of filtering out the web searches when they are going to give you a web result. They need to do a better job of filtering out anything dangerous or inappropriate. But they all have this problem. So just
yeah. They also, I think there needs to be some research done into the differentiating between an adult voice and a child's voice. It's not hard to do. The audio capture of it should be able to do this. And so whenever you have a child asking a question, there should be a routing to like a safe filter that avoids exactly this kind of problem.
I know exactly how they can train it to recognize child voices. They're the ones asking for all the fart jokes. Because like I'll come into the room and there's my 11-year-old asking Alexa for more fart jokes. So yeah, no, that's actually a really good point though. They need to get better. I mean, they are already starting to recognize different voices, different adult voices. Like the HomePod can now. I think it's the HomePod supposedly, although like a lot of these other things, it's not. The execution is not as good as the promise yet, but supposedly can distinguish between different adult voices in the home and give you what you want, the stuff specific to you. But they need to be able to do that with the kids. That's a good point. I think that would be a huge advantage. All right, so let's talk about this. The next headline, and this is one I've been saving to talk to you guys about because I knew this would be fun to talk to you about. Is fascinating story, and it's kind of topical because this past week was the 30th anniversary, I think it was, of the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, and this story in the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists website, so it's good already. It's called, the headline is An Unearthly Spectacle, the Untold Story of the World's Biggest Nuclear Bomb. And the bomb, it was a nuclear bomb built by the Soviets in 1961 called Tsar Bomba, which is just a great name. They didn't actually
call it that. I have to point out, because it's a really cool factoid that comes up in the article, that they didn't call it that. That was just a name that was appended to it by someone. Later. Okay. All right.
It probably had some Soviet unhumorous name.
Yes.
And it was the largest bomb ever dropped at 50 megatons. And they dropped it on Nova Zemlya, which is an island in the Barents Sea, way up, in the Arctic Circle. It's as far from anything as you can possibly be, which is probably good. But they released a video. They released the film that was taken of the explosion. This was an above the ground explosion when they were still doing those things in 1961, and that got released in 2020. And you can go to this article. We'll have a link in the show notes, of course, and you'll be able to watch the video. And it's kind of terrifying to watch.
Oh yeah.
It's in some ways it defies the imagination. Like you think it's so big that it's hard to wrap your head around how big this explosion is. And one of the great ways that they illustrate how big this bomb was is they have a graphic, an infographic down the side of the web page that shows like the relative sizes of different explosions, like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, in the kilotons. And they have like a little bomb to represent each kiloton. And Hiroshima's 15, Nagasaki's 20 kiloton. The largest currently deployed U.S. warhead is 1.2 megatons. And they're like, a couple inches, a few more inches. Ooh, this one was big, Castle Bravo. And then Tsar Bomba is like, just goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think of this? I'm going on and on and on about this. What do you guys think about this story?
I always like seeing this kind of stuff declassified, like all this Cold War era, but both on the Soviet side and the American side, all the stuff that comes out, like this just terrifying and also fascinating, almost in like a morbid way, like how close we got to wiping out civilization, and also how much like manpower and time these people all over the world put into like, what is the best way we can just like completely destroy other countries.
Right.
It's one of those things where like it's terrifying, but it's kind of like you just can't look away from it because it's so interesting. I would also say, since we're talking about this subject, the Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World episode, number 12, the one you guys did about the Soviet doomsday machine, that's a really good episode that covers the same kind of thing.
Yeah. The Soviets had set up a system by which automatic reprisals be launched if contact was ever lost with the leadership of the Soviet Union. And Jimmy goes into that in that episode of several instances of how we came very, very close. Like there was one instance in the early 1980s where a Soviet colonel disobeyed direct orders. Right.
I was going to say it was only out of disobedience that we didn't actually arrive at nuclear war.
Right. And some people say that was Our Lady of Fatima. She had warned that if we didn't pray and consecrate Russia to didn't consecrate Russia to whatever, that a war would come, and that the prayers are what averted it. That God gave him the grace and courage to resist when everything basically the Soviets were getting these notifications that America had launched missiles at the Soviet Union, and so they needed to launch back, but there was an error in the system telling them that there was a launch. And in fact, that may have been the catalyst. That scare may have been the catalyst for Gorbachev, Glasnost, and the eventual end of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, because people we've got to pull back from the brink.
I'll tell you, if you are at all interested in nuclear weapons, there is a movie called The Atomic Bomb Movie, narrated by William Shatner, and it starts with the Trinity test, which was the original test site for the original bomb, and what they did was they stacked 100 tons of TNT on a tower and blew it up,
right, and
videotaped it and took thermal readings of it and everything like that. And that was okay, this is where we're going to start our gauge from on doing this. And so when they blew up the first bomb, they had no idea what was going to happen. Like, they theoretically knew that it was going to be big, but they didn't actually have any kind of measurement for how big it was going to be. And then they blew it up, and the scientists that talk about it, especially like hearing Edward Teller talk about it, they were shocked. They were stunned at how big the explosion was. And that was a eensy-weensy little bomb compared to some of the stuff that we got to, and some of the stuff that we theoretically devised as possible with the nuclear technology that we have. So this is a great article, by the way.
And that's what's terrifying about the Tsar Bomba in particular, because this massive explosion they did was only half of its theoretical yield. Like it could have gone twice as big.
And again, that was because of the scientists kind of feeling a little bit squeamish about the number of lives that he was going to affect with the radiation. And so he switched out the uranium in the secondary with lead. And so it converted the bomb back from being a massive bomb, which could have been 100 megatons, to that 50 megaton range.
There was even concern, and in fact, at several different times in the development of nuclear weapons, that a big enough bomb could ignite the atmosphere, that you could basically burn the entire planet to a crisp by setting off one of these bombs, or destabilizing the crust, or all kinds of other things. Speaking of mysterious world, there have been speculations that if we are being visited by extraterrestrials, whether you believe that or not, but if we are, that they seem to have this inordinate interest, that these events seem to happen around nuclear facilities, places where we store bombs, and that maybe it's our fascination with nuclear weapons that it would be attracting intelligent life from off the planet. If that's actually happening. And you can see why, these humans are kind of messing with something here. This is attracting attention.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things
They're
I want to
inspectors. That's they're just coming into that checks out. All right.
Yeah, they're just a danger to themselves. So let's they're not going anywhere yet.
Exactly.
So the author of this article is Alex Wellerstein, and he has a website called Nuke Map, nuclearsecrecy.com. And if you want to get a kind of a grasp on how big how big a nuclear explosion is, what it does is it pulls up a Google map, and you tell it where you want it to be centered on. There are some presets like Washington, D.C. or Moscow or my hometown of Boston, or you can put in any a site. There's also historical locations like the Trinity site in New Mexico and that sort of thing, and the Tsar Bomba site. Then you can enter in a yield, and Tsar Bomba, the 50 megaton, is available there, as is the Tsar Bomba 100 megaton. And then you can detonate it, and then you can do things like say, okay, include casualties, include radioactive fallout. And if you detonate the 50 megaton Tsar Bomba in New York City, it tells you that the estimated fatalities is 8 million.
Yeah.
And you see it gives you these different radii. This is the radiation radius. This is the fireball radius. This is the heavy blast damage radius. Right out to the thermal radiation radius, and that's the furthest out it goes. That's within that circle. Everyone in there gets 3rd-degree burns, which is bad. That's a bad thing. 3rd-degree burns, and that covers 3-4 states. If you drop it on New York City,
yeah, it's insane. I think this tool is great because it helps you visualize just how destructive this stuff is, because it's, when you hear 50 megatons or whatever,
right,
you get it's big, but seeing this kind of thing, with what you're talking about with the thermal radius, if I was to drop that right in the middle of the city where I live, I would have to drive 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
Before I got out of where you'd be getting 3rd-degree burns still. It's crazy. Right.
Yeah. That's the thing is, if you center it, and you can enter in the name of any city, and you center one of these bombs on, the closest the city closest to you, and just so that that area, what that is like, that how big of a zone it is, and it helps you visualize it. And it's kind of interesting to think because, as a Gen Xer, I grew up with the threat of nuclear war. This was a thing we lived with. That hasn't been a thing for anybody, who was born in the last, say, 35 years or so, like it was for us. And it's kind of amazing to have these tools and to have this history come out and to see how bad nuclear weapons are, and how we should not, how we need to pull back from that. It is bad. War is bad, but nuclear war is just dumb because nobody wins. It's a bad thing. So, but it's good to read the history, and it's good to keep that history alive, because we need to remember how bad it was and how bad these things. But there's also a fascination with the technology that was behind this, the science involved in this. And there's nothing wrong with being fascinated with that science and wanting to read about the history of it. It is kind of wild, and it's like you said, Thomas, it's an excellent article. I really enjoy reading it. It's lengthy, but it's really good.
Yeah, it is.
Well, and I think the amazing thing to see here too is that the science that went into these things is probably some of the best science we've ever done as a race, as a group of people. It rivals the space science that went into going to space, and the space science was even it wasn't even as solid because a lot of it was just so cavalier. They had no idea what was going to happen.
Right.
They just really didn't know. So they're like, let's just launch it and then we'll take some measurements and we'll figure it out.
Yes. Right.
And with this, after the initial couple of tests, there was a lot of debate back and forth between the scientists about what they were going to do. And the scientists themselves were worried about, mitigating all possible extraneous dangers, right? So they knew that these things were really dangerous. They got a little wide-eyed with it, and they were like, okay, we need to know exactly what these are going to do before we even test any of them. And so but they were down to the theoreticals were fairly accurate. They knew before they blew these things up pretty much exactly what it was going to do.
Yep. And this is in the slide rule era. This is not
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's one of the other fascinating things is how technology has really. We went from like blowing these things up in the atmosphere, then we started doing them underground because we figured that was bad to do them above ground. To now they don't actually blow up nuclear bombs anymore because there's a test ban treaty, but also because they don't need to because the computer modeling has gotten so good and we know enough now about how this all works that they can just model it in a supercomputer and get the information they want, which is kind of fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the other thing to remember here is that this is a coincidental, not necessarily a procedure of, but a coincidental development along with nuclear energy technology, which is good because it taught us the potential of danger that we had in nuclear. Not just ramping up nuclear power as much as we could, but in the danger, there is some danger there, right?
Right.
But then also how to control that danger to the point where we can have decently safe nuclear power plants that are running nonstop. And I think you can get bogged down in like, okay, well, there's two examples that we have in the history of nuclear tests or of nuclear power plants. There's two examples that we have that are really bad.
Right.
And there's a couple of other examples that are kind of bad.
Yep.
But for the most part, nuclear power is actually really safe. And it's terrifying when you think nuclear and all you think about is the bomb.
Yeah.
But to know that we have actually harnessed it to the point where we can use it effectively and safely because of all of the science that was done around these things.
And, it's funny because I'm a proponent of nuclear energy. I think it's the greenest of the green energies out there, frankly. When you look at the costs of all the other kinds that are there versus the return on that investment. But yeah, when there are your Chernobyls and your Fukushimas and your whatnot, but a lot of those things were when we didn't follow the science, when we didn't take care of the things that we knew were bad.
Right.
So you'd like to think that we know better now, but we'd hope. But we learned a lot about how to create safe nuclear reactors that the nuclear reactors are built with the tendency is to shut down as opposed to go off, to go critical. And that's a big part of the learning process we've been through. Naval nuclear energy has been safe for over 60, 70 years now. Actually, I think it's close to. And as far as we know, at least in the U.S. side, we've never had a nuclear accident with a naval nuclear reactor. So it's fascinating technology. All right, let's move on to our next headline, which is so we go from the scary to the sad. So
I don't know. Maybe it's scary. It could be scary.
It is a bit scary. If I were this guy, I'd be scared. So back in 2013, there was this British guy who had been mining Bitcoin back in the early days of Bitcoin. Back when it was almost worthless, Bitcoin, and it was more of a hobby. And there's a whole long New Yorker story about it, but basically he was cleaning out his office and was throwing things away. And I have done this. Like I never throw a hard drive away, but yeah, what could it hurt? I'll throw this one away. He threw away a hard drive that he was sure had nothing important on it until later he realized that he had mined 7,500 Bitcoin, that was the key to that was still on that drive. And it had been thrown into the dump. And ever since then, he's been trying to convince his local town to let him find it, to dig it up, to find this drive, because 7,500 Bitcoin is worth about $500 million today. And he's even promised the town he'd give it tens of millions of dollars if they would let him do this. And the town basically just says no, like, nope, too bad, we don't want to do it. And they give various reasons, like the most basic one is we don't have a permit to dig up the dump. We only have a permit to put stuff in the dump. You have to have a separate permit to dig up the dump. Bureaucracy, of course. But also, we don't know for sure that it's there. So we could be digging it up and creating this environmental hazard for nothing. And so on and so forth. And just the guy, they think the guy's a crank anyway. But he says there was a quote from him that every time he thinks about it, he dies a little bit inside. And I'm with you. What do you guys think of this story?
I just, as someone who has a entire cardboard box full of all my old hard drives, I would have never thrown away a hard drive in the first place unless I made sure that it was completely unusable beforehand.
Yeah.
So that's the part that really gets me. Like, it's a sad story, but like, yeah, this is why you back up things.
Yeah. Why is this usable? Like, it should be like one of those moments where you hit it with the magnet and you go, oh no,
it's wiped.
And it's wiped and you're done. And that's it. And you kick yourself for the rest of your life for losing that amount of money. But there's no way you're going to dig up a landfill and find a usable hard drive because you ruined it before you put it in the trash.
Right. So obviously he didn't follow proper procedures for disposing of a hard drive. That's clear from the beginning. So he's already shown himself to be somewhat careless with his technology, and he's an IT pro. I have a story, and maybe a lot of people who have ever had cryptocurrency might have similar stories, but I had about $1,500 in some minor currency, some fringe currency. I didn't put in, it wasn't any of my money that I put into it. I had been given it as a kind of a promo for signing up on a website, and here's a bunch of coins in this currency. And it eventually became worth $1,500. I'm like, so that's cool. So I wanted to move it to my Coinbase wallet, and I put the wrong number in somehow, and it's gone. $1,500. Just somebody got $1,500 in their wallet, and they don't know why, but they do. So
fortunate them. I remember selling a Bitcoin. I had a Bitcoin early on. It was I bought it at about $60 and sold it at about 90 and was like, hey, I made $20 on this thing.
Woohoo! Yeah. How much is a Bitcoin worth now? 60 grand?
Yeah.
I had someone offer to give me one for free, like right at the beginning. I was like, that's dumb. I'm never going to need that.
Why would you ever need that?
Yeah.
It's like $20 on digital nothing. Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I ran my computer for a few hours and made $20. Excellent.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, it's like, this it reminds me of the story of the what was the number 6 employee at Apple. So the sixth guy to be hired there, he was given stock options as part of his compensation in Apple in 1978, which was basically worthless. A few years later, as the company had gone public, it was worth some money. He sold some of his stock to buy a car for his family. His family he needed a new station wagon for the family. And that station wagon today is worth about $1 billion or some ridiculous amount of money, because the appreciating value of the stock that he sold. But on the other hand, he needed a car. That's the thing is with these things. It's like, yes, there is that potential value someday, maybe whatever, but then there's also just the present need and present value, and you can't drive yourself crazy with the what ifs.
Because this could, just as easily have been like your box of Beanie Babies that you didn't want to lose, and of course those aren't worth anything anymore. It's you just never know.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or the what was it, the priceless mint comic books that my mom threw away when I was a kid because it was taking up space and it was a waste of time, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's just it is what it is. It's what it is. There was some discussion in one of the a linked video, I think from CNBC, about should there be a way for people to be able to recover lost keys, lost wallets when they've lost the key. And the guy they were talking to kind of explained why. But what do you think? Like, should there be a way to circumvent this potential disaster of losing your Bitcoin wallet key?
I think it's kind of built into the. I think it's built into the blockchain that you can't.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that if you start messing with that because basically the blockchain is, and the only way I've ever found to explain it to people is like, okay, I made a picture and I'm going to sell this as my thing, right? And I go to flip the picture over on the back and I sign my name with the date, right? And then I sell it to somebody. And in order to sell it to somebody, they're going to write over top of my name their name with the date that they buy it. And then the next person who buys it from them is going to do the same thing. Well, as soon as you get out of that track, especially with some of the less complicated, the earlier ones like Bitcoins, you can't branch that at all. And so if you gave a person a way to recover their key, you're branching that Bitcoin at that point. And you can't do that because then it ruins all of that other signature pile up that develops over time.
Right.
And so it's kind of built into the system that you can't, like, if you lose this stuff, you've lost your ride along with all of the Bitcoin.
The point of it is the security, right?
Right.
I mean, and it's like with your password manager. You know, if you build a backdoor into your password manager, it's no longer secure. Right. You know, just or that's Apple's argument for not putting backdoors into the iPhone. If you put a backdoor in, someone will find it and someone will use it.
Right.
So you might as well not have a security at all. So yeah, I agree. But man, $500 million. I mean, if it were me, I'd be wanting to dig it up. I'd be offering them, 90% of that to let me dig it up.
Maybe if he digs deep enough in there, he'll find some of those ET cartridges too.
the famous landfill ET cartridges and an Apple Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, it could be an interesting like treasure hunter sort of thing where he could, some treasure hunters could come in and partner with him, because the fact is no one can, even if someone else finds the hard drive, they can't decrypt it, the wallet, without his password. So hopefully he's still got that. We can presume he's got that at least, the password.
I can just imagine getting the hard drive back. You get it all cleaned off. You stick it in, and you're like, "Oh, wait, what was the password?
What was that password again? Oh, right. Where's the sticky? Where's the sticky note?
Landfill, to the landfill."
Oh man! All right. So yeah, I've thrown away things I regretted, but never anything worth a lot of money. So all right, that brings us to our picks of the week. So Jack, I'm gonna let you go first with your pick of the week, because this looks interesting to me.
Awesome. My pick of the week is an app for Mac OS. It's called Magnet, and it's a pretty simple app. Really, all it does is it gives you really good customization for snapping and arranging your windows on your screen, whether or not you're using just one, like your laptop screen, or if you have up to, I think it's up to 6 monitors, you can move them around, and it does really good things. Like it can detect your resolution natively. So like if you do the thing where you got your monitor vertical, you can like snap them vertically, and it's a really good organization tool. And it brings in one of those features that is one of the only things I miss from Windows, which is they have a pretty good built-in intelligent snapping for Windows. And that's not something I've found built into the Mac, but this app really does it well. It's only $8 on the App Store, and I feel like it's already paid for itself just in the amount of productivity I've saved, not manually moving around my windows and getting them where I want them to be.
And can you set up workspaces? So like you can use a hotkey to make all the windows move into a particular place? And
yeah, you can like set up I think it's up to 10, but it might be more than that. Different hotkeys where you just hit that and it's going to put it where you want it to be.
Oh, cool. That would be useful. Like, because I like to set up my windows differently depending on what I'm doing, whether I'm like recording a podcast or working in spreadsheets or that sort of thing. And having the windows rearrange automatically like that would be really useful, and not overlapping. That's one of the things that always bugs me is like, where's the window? It's under there somewhere. There's like 8 windows on top of it.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's like you said, that's one of the things from Microsoft Windows that is an advantage over the Mac that we don't have on the Mac natively. So good pick. Thomas, what have you got?
All right. So mine is actually a Christmas gift from my wife. She sleeps later than I do. I'm a very early riser. I'm very late to bed and also very early riser. I just don't sleep much, honestly. And my alarm sound startles her awake to the point where she can't get back to sleep, or she has poor sleep after I wake up. So she was tired of it. And so she got me a Christmas gift related to it. It's a Philips wake up light. And it is this dome shaped light that sits by your bed, and you set it for whatever time you want to wake up. And it gradually, over the course of 20 to 40 minutes, brightens up as leading up to your alarm. So, 40 minutes before, 20 minutes before you set your alarm, it starts to brighten up, and starts off with this dim red, nice, soft light. And then it just gets brighter and brighter and brighter until you really do feel like you're waking up to the sunrise. And it then plays a sound at the end. So it'll either turn on the FM radio, or it'll play one of 5 preset nature sounds. And you can set the volume of the sound and set the brightness of the light, the intensity of the light as it comes in. And it is fantastic. I like the concept, but the execution is amazing. You really do, like, you wake up before the sound goes off. You don't even get to the sound. You just wake up naturally because the light is bright enough that it just starts that process of you wanting to get out of bed, and you actually are awake by the time it gets done. And so you get out of bed and are ready to go, and you don't even have to, you can just turn the alarm off at that point and say, I don't even want it to play the alarm sound, because it's bright enough and has done all of its work.
Wow. And it's the perfect Christmas gift, because it's a gift your wife is giving to herself, but
Exactly.
she can claim it's for you. So that's awesome.
There you go. It was a wonderful, wonderful gift.
My wife is very light sensitive when she sleeps. I wonder if this would be a problem for her if I got this for me. So it'd be interesting to see. But I like the idea, because I'm also the first riser in my bedroom, and it would be kind of nice to rise to that instead of the alarm,
right?
And then
any kind of jarring sound, yeah. Because
And
if
then
it's
the
going to wake
snooze.
you up, it's going to be jarring, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And then you snooze, yeah, right.
Right.
So,
Right.
and this one does have a snooze function too. And so when the snooze function on it is that it dims the light down a little bit and then comes back up and plays the alarm sound again.
But I presume that, like you said, it wakes you up gradually so that you wake up before the alarm even goes off. So you probably are going to snooze, hit the snooze less.
I didn't really I will normally shut it down or shut it off, and then find myself, 20 minutes later going, oh man, I was supposed to be up already. And I didn't feel like that at all. I got up before this one, and I just went ahead and turned it off so that she could keep sleeping, got out of bed and was fine.
Cool. Excellent. So my pick is an app that for the Mac that is a bit specialized, but it's really handy. If it's the sort of thing you need, then this is definitely you will be happy to have it. It's called Pixel Snap. And what it does is it lets you measure things on the screen. So if you work in any type of graphical, so like if you're a programmer and you're designing user interface, if you're designing websites, if you're working in other images, it will let you measure pixels on the screen, distances. How far is it between these two screen elements? How big is this box? And it will even work with photos, and it's smart about recognizing different screen elements. It's really kind of neat. And I've used versions of this, like of different kinds of this type of app before, but this one works pretty well, and it's really nice, and it's really precise. That's one of the things that I like about it. And it snaps to the measurements and all that sort of thing. So if you ever need to design or do any type of screen measurements, user interface, that sort of thing, this is perfect for you. It's $39, so it's not cheap. However, it's available as part of SetApp. So if you have the SetApp subscription service, it's built into that. And I've said before, SetApp is like Netflix for Mac applications. And so one flat fee, and SetApp is growing all the time, more and more apps, to the point where I realized that I was spending more on upgrades of software and maintaining the software than the SetApp cost. So SetApp was the way to go for me. But then the pick though is Pixel Snap 2, So that's at pixelsnap.com. So that's my pick this week. All right. I think that'll do it for us. We would love to hear from you, your feedback in our discussion. You can comment on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And of course, you'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week in our show notes at sqpn.com. Remember to like each episode of Secrets of Tech on our Facebook page, retweet them on Twitter, where we're at SQPN, and we love to hear from you on social media, so be sure to reach out and send us your comments there too. Until next time, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been great.
And Jack Baruzzini, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest, and Happy New Year, everyone. Hi, everyone. This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of StarQuest, with a special message as we approach the Christmas season. This past year, the StarQuest network has continued to expand our mission of exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture through our many entertaining and informative programs. Now we need your generous financial support to reach new audiences with more of the life-changing and uplifting programming we've been creating for more than a decade. That's why it's very important that we hear from you this Advent and Christmas, the time when nonprofits receive most of their support for the year. If you are already a supporter of StarQuest, we thank you and ask you to prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. If you're not yet a supporter, please become one now. Every gift counts. Could you give $15 or even just $10 per month? Whatever level of support you can offer, please show your support for SQPN this Christmas. And remember that your gifts may be tax deductible. Just go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. May God bless you this Advent, and may you have a blessed Christmas season.